And to make matters even worse, this man is technically married to a woman who was just released from jail for taking the life of their 2-year-old with another man who was her then boyfriend, who, might I add, was a known registered sex offender. So I
What's good, y'all? Today I'm back with another banger. This one's called Trust Betrayed. North Carolina cops hidden agenda for a secret crush. So I don't really know what the story is about. It just seemed like something that was interesting. We're gonna check it out. I just see on the thumbnail he killed her husband. So yeah, we about to see, man. We about to see what this joint is hitting on. Cause it seems like it's a crazy ass story. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Nobody wins when the family feels, but my
Second County 911, this is Wendy. What's the
Hi, we need.
emergency?
Hello?
He's still nearby.
He's somewhere, either he's within the residence or he ran to the wood line that's behind the residence.
And he should have never showed up to my house the way that he did. He had no right to do so.
On New Year's Day.
Did he feel like he was there to protect you?
No, I would strongly say no. Like, there was nothing going on for him to feel like he needed to come.
Unbelievably smart and just full of laughter. She was a happy baby. She was so happy, and she was a mama's girl. I had her so spoiled.
Only at 9, an off-duty officer who killed a man at that man's home last year just pleaded guilty to a crime.
Now what's crazy, most people would say one bad apple can spoil a bunch. And in some cases that's true. But I'm gonna be a responsible adult when presenting this story, family. And I'm gonna not do that when describing this police officer we're about to discuss from North Carolina. Now we all know some cops can abuse their badge, but not all, like anything else in life. But it seems this cop did abuse his power with his badge, all while trying to play Captain Save. Recently, this cop was sentenced to a small amount of time for going to another man's house after hearing he got into an altercation with his wife. But the key word in the sentence that I just said was wife, the victim wife. Now one thing led to another, and this officer ended up shooting this man at his house, having a bullet strike his head.
So he came to this lady's house, I guess over a domestic dispute, and ended up shooting her husband in the head. And judging by the clip in the beginning of the video, he didn't really have a reason to shoot the husband. Unless, yeah, let's keep watching.
Of course, you'll later find out, family, that all this happened while he was off duty. But this where the abuse of power come in, because he used to serve as weapon. And to make matters even worse, this man is technically married to a woman who was just released from jail for taking the life of their 2-year-old with another man who was her then boyfriend, who, might I add, was a known registered sex offender. So I know this sounds like a lot, family, but this is what you got me for. So in this video, we're gonna go in order of the events. So before we go over this one, remember, I don't give you no angle, I just give you the story. So with that being said, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We're gonna jump right to it. Fam, this Santa Lana from Gaston County in North Carolina. She was married and still is to K. Cool Riley Acapon. But in 2011, she was caught messing with another man, even while married, and having her 2-year-old daughter present inside of American Best Inn in Bessemer City. Her daughter name was Addison Grace Lanham. As mentioned, she was only 2 years old, and she passed away after having a serious infection that wasn't reported. May she rest in peace, and love and condolences to her family.
Oh yeah, this one.
Some crazy sounds in it.
She was so beautiful. She was a great kid. She was so smart. Unbelievably smart. And just full of laughter.
I don't understand how some people can sit on camera and cry like that when you knew she had an infection that you refused to take her to the doctor for. Like, I ain't here to judge nobody, gang, but That's crazy.
She was a happy baby. She was so happy, and she was a mama's girl. I had her so spoiled. But I know the good Lord has got you right now. But you should have lived your life longer, and Mama misses you so much. I wish that you were sitting on my lap right now, hugging me and telling me you love me. Because she would hug me and she would pat my back. And she would rub my face and say, Mama, I love you. I just want her back. I just want her back. I just want her back.
It's crazy.
She should not be. She should tell you she should have been able to live her life longer.
Now, after hearing from the mother, Santa, she was charged 3 days after that interview and 5 days after the incident. She was charged with involuntary manslaughter and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Her appointed lawyer had formally requested her to attend her daughter's funeral. She was released from prison in 2020 after serving 9 years. And after being released from jail, she was still married to a now officer in the same county she got arrested for killing a 2-year-old. But just 3 years after her release, in the same county, her husband would be arrested for murder himself after fatally shooting an unarmed man on New Year's Day, whom he had been acquainted with weeks earlier while responding to a domestic dispute call as part of his duties, according to Gaston County's district attorney. It was 2:15.
I can tell y'all one thing, gang, that most of these issues, people dying, man, especially between two males, the root of it is 9 times out of 10, my bad, a female. Crazy.
10 a.m., the man known as Officer Riley had pulled up to a Burlington home and blocked the driveway entrance after getting into a dispute with the man named Juan Avallo, just 33 years old. One thing led to another. They got into an altercation, which led to Officer Riley getting stabbed by Juan. And after Juan tried to get away from the scene, Officer Riley begins to shoot at Juan, striking him once in the head, leaving him deceased on the scene. Apparently, Officer Riley was one of the officers who responded to what has been characterized as a domestic dispute on November 28, 2022. Apparently, during a court hearing Wednesday, court records indicated that Avallo was accused of assaulting a woman on a date. Officer Riley remained in contact with the accuser in a dispute, and on New Year's Eve, he and Juan had a heated telephone conversation in which fighting words were exchanged. Now, before we go over further detail, I want you guys to hear from the victim's wife.
Hold on, I'm trying to figure. I ain't understand how they was on the phone arguing. Let me go back. Maybe I missed something.
Woman on a date. Officer Riley remained in contact with the accuser in a dispute, and on New Year's Eve, he and Juan had a heated telephone conversation in which fighting words were exchanged. Now, before we go over further detail, I want you guys to hear from the victim's wife and give her statement, even though she was the one texting this officer. Check it out.
And he should have never showed up to my house the way that he did. He had no right to do so.
Hold on. So when the officer came to the crib about the first dispute, he got her contact information and she started texting him. So they had been texting before this whole incident happened.
Tonight, the family of a Ranlo man shot and killed on New Year's Day speaks only to WCCB News about the moments leading up to his death. Family members say Juan Avallo was shot to death in front of his kids. Tonight, a Ranlo police officer remains behind bars charged with his murder. Good evening. I'm Morgan Fogarty.
And I'm Gary Brode. Thanks for joining us. WCCB Charlotte's Trish Williford talked with the victim's family. It's a story you're only going to see on WCCB.
As you can imagine, this family is devastated over this tragedy. They were all just together, celebrating the new year when the victim was shot and killed.
He was really close to all of us. There wasn't anything that we wouldn't ask him to do and he wouldn't do for us. My kids are now without their dad. They haven't been more than a day without him.
Crystal Ortiz must now rely on the comfort of her family, all of them surrounding her now, as she reflects on the life of a man she's known since she was a teenager. Ortiz says her beloved Juan meant everything to their family.
He was just like the best dad that they can ask for. I relied on him for so much and for him to do so much for us. So it's just going to be rough.
She says Juan Avalo was also their protector, which is why, according to court documents, the 33-year-old contacted Ranlo police officer Kawaka Ajiapan after he found the officer's cell phone number saved in his wife's cell phone. According to search warrants, the men communicated about meeting up to fight.
Regardless of the fact or whatever the communication was.
So whatever you saw, I mean, some niggas might flip out just to have the nigga name in your phone, like why you got his name saved in your phone. But it had to be more than that for him to hit the nigga up and want to catch the fade with him.
Was between the two prior to him arriving to my home. As an officer, as a law enforcement person, you would think you would know what to make better decisions.
Authorities say last November, Officer Ajiapan investigated a domestic violence case at Avalo's home. Ortiz says the officer kept her cell phone number and communicated with her.
He was stating that he had been through a domestic violence case and he was a victim of it before, and he was using the staying of him wanting to be support.
But Ortiz says she was shocked when the officer showed up at her home on Burlington Avenue around 2 a.m. on New Year's Day.
Did he feel like he was there to protect you?
No, I would strongly say no. Like, there was nothing going on for him to feel like he needed to come.
Ortiz says Officer Ajiapan had a gun on him when he stepped into their front yard.
And he was asked multiple times to leave the premises, and he refused to do so. Me and my son were present when it happened, and my son was there and seen everything.
The family says Avalo had a knife and attempted to defend himself against Officer Ajiapan, stabbing him before he was shot.
When he turned his back to leave the situation, that's when this man started shooting.
He didn't deserve this at all. Juan was leaving. He attempted to go so many times, and he just kept provoking him and agitating him and just kept antagonizing him. And Juan didn't want this.
So I was going through splice samples and I found this.
Hey, that's crazy.
We checked Ajiapan's work history and found he was previously employed as a police officer in Gastonia as well as a corrections officer in Rowan County.
As mentioned, Officer Riley was off duty. He didn't have his service uniform on but had a service weapon. And it was also noted that Officer Riley was suspended from another force only months before this incident. While working at Gastonia Police Department, Officer Riley had got in some trouble when he was involved in the incident on a school bus. According to a spokesman for Gaston County, Officer Riley was accused of impeding a school bus from continuing its route in order to question the driver about his child's behavior on the bus and related discipline. Officer Riley was charged, but his record was later expunged. After that meeting on March 21st, 2022, Officer Riley had wrote an email to his then police chief, Travis Britton. Hello, sir. I'm reaching out to see if you have any availability this week to have a meeting. Officer Riley wrote, I know that Mondays are usually busy for the administration. As for me, other than Wednesday and Thursday, I am not assigned to work any day this week. Thank you, and I look forward to meeting with you. He said he wanted to have that meeting about the internal investigation. They scheduled it for that following Thursday, but a week and a half later, April 9th, 2022, he was let go. But even after knowing all that, the DA still gave him a plea that allowed him to cop out and be sentenced to just 5 years in jail for murder.
Only at 9, an off-duty officer who killed a man at that man's home last year just pleaded guilty to a crime.
Are you in fact guilty?
Yes, sir.
This all happened after that former Randlow police officer got into a fight with the victim. Prosecutors say that he should not have been at the victim's home in the first place.
He definitely shouldn't have been at his crib.
Live at the Gaston County Courthouse.
2 in the morning.
Yeah, and prosecutors said that moving ahead with trying this case could have been risky. The officer that a lot of people here called Officer Riley Agupon, they say shouldn't have been at that house, and he shot a man running away from him, but they also say that very same man stabbed him. So self-defense could have been a consideration in this case. The victim's family says that the officer could have prevented this, but instead he acted like he was above the law. They called him Officer Riley Agupon. A man once sworn to serve and protect stood in court handcuffed and surrounded by deputies, and he admitted.
Are you in fact guilty?
To taking a life.
Yes, sir.
In November of 2022, Agupon was a responding officer to a domestic incident between Juan Avelo and his wife at their home. Prosecutors say weeks later, Avelo found out the officer's number was in his wife's phone, called him, and the two began arguing. They say Agupon was off duty when he went to the house where the two fought, and Avelo stabbed the officer and took off. They say Agupon fired several shots and one hit Avelo in the head, killing him.
About 1 o'clock.
Avelo's mother spoke in court with help from a translator.
All I'm asking for is justice for what happened to my son.
Agupon looked straight ahead.
He's taken half of my life and half of my heart. There had to have been a way to avoid this.
There was, said Juan Avelo's mother-in-law. She aimed her comments at the former officer.
He had an opportunity to walk away from all this.
Agupon was originally charged with murder. She's not happy that he took a plea to voluntary manslaughter and a 5-year sentence, considering that he was a sworn officer
5 years,
when the
gang.
shooting happened.
He's here to save life.
5 years. Went there with a service weapon, 2 o'clock in the morning, to fight somebody. You antagonized him and shot him in the head.
Agreed to permanently surrender his certification as a law enforcement officer.
Now it's time for you guys to let me know how you guys feel, fam. This was the story of a North Carolina.
Hey, that's crazy, gang. That's crazy, man. And Shorty, I don't want to put no blame on her because I don't know, I know if it's a domestic dispute, sometimes the officer will take down your information. But if she knows he was texting her on some, I'm trying to be your emotional support type shit, she should have did it that off jump. I feel like there was more to it. I feel like we don't know what she was saying to the officer, but crazy situation, man. Rest in peace to that man. Let me know what y'all think in the comments, man. I'm out.
Tell me why you hating, you ain't choose to make it. I got some new gravy, been lit like a fuse lately.